everyone, and welcome back to The Manager, the podcast where we reframe invisible labor as the powerful leadership. I'm your host, Amy Rickabus, entrepreneur, mother of six, and author of The Manager. Today's guest is someone I instantly clicked with at a Tomahawk dinner in New York about a year ago. We ended up talking for 3 hours about everything from AI to emotional intelligence, and I was just beginning to write my book at the time. Said she's read the entire thing, and I'm honored to have her here today. Ioanna is the brilliant founder of Dextego, a platform that uses microlearning to build power skills like empathy, confidence, negotiation, and communication in sales teams. She's multilingual, global-minded, and deeply committed to changing the way we think about learning and human development in the workplace. If you're curious about the intersection of AI, education, and what it really takes to be confident in business, this episode is for you. Hi, so nice to have you. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Ioanna. So nice
My
to see you.
pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Lovely to see you always.
Oh, it's so nice to see you too. I'm so glad that you had a nice trip, and I'm glad you're back in New York.
Ready to get back on track. Yeah.
Good. I love it. So I wanted to start from the beginning with you. Could you take us back to the beginning? How did your background lead you to launching Dextego?
Sure. Yeah. So I think the last, what is it now, like almost 8 years, I've been very much into psychology, talent development, and really my passion has always been around soft skills. And I always knew that that's what drew me to people. That's what really separates for me the average from the best. Like no matter what your career is, whether you're, a waiter or a CEO or whatever, like at the end of the day, the skills that matter is communication, collaboration, leadership. So I've always been thinking about how can we develop these skills and how can we identify these skills in people that we hire and we work with. For my master's, I studied talent development and strategic management, and I work with a professor who has been researching high potential employees. And we had very much the same beliefs, but then we started researching together, and I helped him launch his books and truly understood that stars, meaning, people like LeBron James, are very rare, but we all want them, right? Like there's no CEO that will tell you, I don't want to hire the best out there. But the question becomes, it's not about how you attract them, it's how you can develop others to become those stars. Otherwise, you're always going to be fighting for a better salary that someone might give them or more perks or, it's endless. And on the other hand, when you know how to develop talent, these people become loyal, they grow within your organization, and they understand truly the value add that you've brought them. So while at my previous company, Adaptivio, was working as the VP of People and Chief of Staff, and I saw by recruiting and by developing lots of talent that it becomes extremely hard to develop these skills, especially in a remote setting, because you get to do this through experience, right? When you hire someone, they get to see how others in the team operate, learn by their manager through the examples that they see. And now you just give them a screen and you give them maybe an online course and you're like, good luck. And I found that very unfair. I do believe employers have a responsibility to develop talent, yet they didn't have the tools to do so. So that's when the idea of Dextego came about, an AI coaching platform for soft skills development that can not replace, but really fill in the gap, because you don't have access to your manager 24/7. Maybe you're not lucky enough to have a good manager or a safe space to ask questions, but you deserve that place to grow and practice before meeting a client, or if you're in a customer success, for instance, role, before being yelled at by an angry customer. Long story short, evolved quickly to an AI sales coach where we saw a lot of fraction, because client-facing roles are the ones that really have to develop the skills to build trust with buyers, or else they won't be successful in the roles. And that has now been almost 3 years that we've had Dex go out and working on adding more and more insights in the platform to personalize the coaching further at scale.
Wow. Yeah, that's so cool. Like when we were talking at dinner, when I met you about a year ago, you were saying how when you have salespeople in a room and maybe you're doing a sales coaching session, that when people in a group, oftentimes the people are afraid to ask questions that would be really important for them to have answered. And that, this is this having this unique platform where there's no one watching allows your salespeople to ask all the questions that they otherwise wouldn't be confident enough to ask, right?
And tailored in a way that you understand it. So I always
Yeah.
give the example like some people like a coach that's more direct, some others like it more confidence boosting, right? When you just have online courses or when you just attend a workshop, it's tailored for the average of the group. And that by default is not touching everyone. So now with AI and understanding truly who you're coaching, you're able to speak to the way that they would listen and you can meet them where they are. Like everyone has different skill sets and everyone will apply them differently based on their day-to-day tasks. So let's say I have a call which is a renewal call, but you have a discovery call. We need to work on different skills. So that
Mhm.
AI code's now integrated to your workspace, to your existing tools, will only keep developing and becoming better as you use it.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Which is like, this one's a good follow up question to that. So, what sparked your belief that power skills like confidence, listening, and empathy are just as important as technical ones?
You can quickly tell when you're meeting someone, and I'll continue with the sales example in the first 2 minutes if you will ever buy from them or not. And it doesn't matter what they even sell. By default, no matter what the technical training they had on the product that they're selling goes out of the room. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant because if you feel like they're too salesy or too arrogant or they're not listening to you, you're just not going to want to talk to them again. And
It's so true.
although this is so true and we all know it, sales organizations have been so focused on training that's about CRM, like how do I add my deal in the pipeline? What data does it have to have? How do I push it forward? It's really not helpful because you can expect that you hire an 18, 19-year-old and you give them a phone and you tell them, go and talk to a C-suite that they've never talked to before without teaching them these soft skills. And that's why I truly think that it's so important to develop them, yet it's so hard because a lot of them are usually developed when you're a kid, right? When you're still in school.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I see that with the next book that I'm writing, I definitely feel like there's going to be a lot of that in there as far as, teaching self-confidence, teaching.
Uh-huh.
There are a lot of things that I learned as a child that I have carried forth into my CEO, my C-suite life, but I actually learned them when I was, 2, 3, 4 years old. In fact, my daughter and I we're on vacation right now in Hawaii, and we were at the pool um, at a hotel, and my husband and I met a man in the pool, and so we shook his hand and introduced ourselves, and our daughter, our 4-year-old, went up to the man and said, "Oh, hi, my name is Indy Rose," and she shook his hand, and I thought
I love that.
looked him in the eye and shook his hand, and I thought, "She's a future CEO, check her out." But I do think we learn these things that, a lot of these skills, hopefully we're taught as children. And if we're not, we do
Mhm.
need to be taught, in our young adult life as we're developing our careers.
Absolutely, and I agree. But the whole point is that you can still develop them even as an adult. And I
Yeah.
think what you and I both very much like, which is microlearning, is that you can start by just focusing on one thing at a time. Like we think that, oh my God, I have this negative trait, I'll never change, or this person has that, they can never change. Everybody can, as long as they do one thing at a time, and there's this 1% improvement every day, and collectively then at the end of the year it is indeed someone else. But of course you cannot, let's say, score 5 out of 10 in negotiation and expect tomorrow you're a 10 out of 10. And that's where I think a lot of people lose faith in the process. But it's also because a lot of the trainings have not been based on these principles. You can't expect that you'll give someone a course on negotiation, which is passive. They'll have to click next, next, next to complete it, and suddenly they'll become expert negotiators. I mean,
Which is
if that
this
was the
one.
case, we would all be hostage negotiators and work in CIA.
Exactly. So this one's a good question. For those who aren't familiar, what exactly is microlearning and why does it work so well for building soft skills? Because I think a lot of people, microlearning kind of blew my mind when you explained it to me.
Yeah, truly, it is what the word says. Is this micro steps, bite-sized learning every day that ends up collectively then teaching you whatever the domain you're learning. And when it comes to soft skills, let's say we're talking about leadership skills, for example. What you were saying earlier, you can't expect like a 10-year-old to now become the CEO, but they're already developing these skills step by step throughout their lives by being in these stress environments where their skills are being tested and they show up as a leader. So when it comes to even math, right? Like we learn a few pieces of geometry, a few pieces of I don't know, something else over the years we're in school. Similarly, with any other topic, when you decide to learn it, if you break it down, you're going to be able to improve a lot over time. And microlearning is something that has been introduced the last years in L&D, especially in the workplace, to be able to fit the busy work day of the employee. Right? We
Yeah.
cannot afford to take 2 hours in a day anymore to learn, but we can
Mhm.
afford 5 minutes prior to a call to do a role play with our AI codes or to read a topic that we're interested in and now apply that in action during the day so it can stick. We do it again tomorrow, the next day, and that's how we improve through microlearning.
I love that. So you blend AI with human behavior in such a unique way. How does Dextego use AI to enhance rather than replace human connection?
Yes, I love the question because it truly is a misconception that AI can do it all for you and it can automate everything. I truly believe in the power of a human coach plus AI. I think they provide something very different. I think that a human coach, sorry, cannot by default be in every single meeting you'll ever be, right? They cannot get data from the time they met you till the next time they met you unless you inform them about your progress. So they're lacking that data and analysis, but they have much more instinct and they can connect the dots based on their experience and based on patterns that they see from different clients, different organizations, different teams. The AI, though, is able to very quickly give you answers, improve as you improve, give you this bite-sized training depending on what's your goal every time, but it can't really understand super complex situations. You can programmatically say, okay, if user asks for this, give it this answer. And if we're talking about AI agents, do even more complex stuff, but it still is limited to its knowledge base. You can say a human is limited too, but a human has much more creativity and is resourceful in different ways. So
Hmm.
connecting the two, I think, is the best way to go about it. And again, as I mentioned earlier, our platform, for example, is just filling a gap that the manager is not accessible, that the manager is not approachable, and
Hmm.
it doesn't mean that the manager is not required.
Yes,
Because what do
totally.
you do
This
with the
is
data? You have
Yeah,
taken
because
action.
if you have 5 minutes in a day, it's not going to be the same 5 minutes that your manager has available, right? So how can a manager be available to 200 sales people at once? It's asking a lot of a manager to have that kind of availability. They're really not. So this gives you a tool
Uh-huh.
to be available when your personnel need the micro education, when they
Mm-hmm.
have time to do it any time of the day. they can hop on and do their 5 minutes of learning. And I think that it's just powerful. I think micro learning is powerful, not just for sales, but I think it's going to be a powerful tool for humanity in the future for lots of things.
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
look at us. We're always on our phone. So having
hmm
those 5 minutes instead of scrolling on social media to learn something, that can be
Yep.
huge.
I downloaded Smartly, and I've started doing that when I feel like, oh, kind of want to look on, social media. I have a few minutes. I'm like, nope, go on Smartly. I've been working on my communication skills, just
Nice.
because I've been speaking more and all of those, and then doing podcasts and writing and all of those things. And so it's so neat to have a tool in my pocket that I can learn something new in the 10 or 15 minutes that I have available on that specific day.
And have it in all languages available. That is another big thing. Like, it's not the same if, let's say, you're a Spanish speaking person and then your manager doesn't speak Spanish. There is things that can be lost in translation. It's a real thing.
So very true, Ioanna. And there's so many companies that are global that have employees in multiple countries, work in multiple languages. I mean, I can think of my biggest client as global, and they're having a huge push in the Spanish language world right now. So they're going to have so many Spanish language employees that need to have access to tools in their own. Because when you learn in your own language, it is easier.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, than trying to do it in your second language.
Yeah, and you feel like you're more safe to fail and learn.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great point. So, has surprised you most about how people learn confidence and communication in short bursts?
So what I think is very interesting is when we have like a user who's been doing this for 30, 40 years and then they try and the before and after is very different, meaning they will think, as we'll ask them like, how do you think you'll do on this? They rate themselves and AI rates them. And you see immediately that the people who have confidence in their coachability and ability to improve over time will accept that feedback easily. They will question maybe how did they get that calculation? Like, tell me more. I want to understand it better. But those who lack coachability and have more of a toxic mindset will be very against the result if it's negative for them. Like if it's a low score, like, oh, this doesn't work, or what is this, or I don't agree. And it really has surprised me how various people take the feedback. Um, and it actually shows that our hypothesis is valid. Like your potential of being a high performer is very much connected to your coachability, and of course you have to have an open mindset and understand that you do have room for growth in order to want to use a tool like Dextego. So the impact of confidence in oneself to learning is huge. And on the other hand, if you're not that confident, positive psychology can really help the way you learn. Because it's another thing for you to practice something and get a response that says, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did that okay, versus you have great potential in this area and this is what you did great. Here's how you can improve that. So the way the feedback is delivered is also crucial. It's not just how you give the feedback it's not just what the feedback is, but it's how you give it.
That makes so much sense because some people just don't take criticism well, or critiquing, or being reviewed,
Mm-hmm.
but if you can present it in a way that you're offering them a benefit or giving them a confidence boost. I try to do that with my kids all the time too. If I'm correcting something, I'll try to do it in a very positive way.
Uh-huh.
I never tell them what not to do. I'll tell them what to do instead.
There you go. And gamification. Gamification can really help. Like those incentives. I mean, with kids, it's the same thing. Yeah, like if you do this right, I'll give you this candy. Like with software is you do something else, you'll get confetti, and that dopamine will help them get back to it.
Absolutely. I know Indy has a little book, my 4-year-old, again, she's got a little book, and every time she completes an assignment, it has stickers in the back, and you get to put a little star on it, and it's like, that's enough for her. Just,
Yeah, it's a
you
small
know, get
things.
these little things. People are, we like little rewards. We do.
Mm-hmm.
Little dopamine
Validation
rewards.
that, hey,
Yes.
someone sees us.
Yeah, absolutely. In a world of distraction, what do you think actually helps someone retain what they learn?
I think it's habit creation. So back to microlearning, like making sure
Yeah.
you do put on the calendar that, hey, I'll practice 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. As if you are committing to going to the gym, for instance, you have to take the same seriousness in your learning to really make it sticky. I truly
You.
think it has to do also with the learning culture that an organization is creating. So, for example, you can give them a tool about soft skills, but not include soft skills measurements in their performance review. Because whether we like it or not, still people know that they will be measured in certain dimensions at the end of the year, and their bonus depends on that. So for them to connect the dots and feel incentivized enough to do it, they need to also see the benefit in regards to that. Because you can't think that every employee that you have will be self-motivated, right? You'll have those, which is great, but you will primarily have people that need a boost. So I
Yes.
think it's creating a learning culture internally, making sure you put the time on your calendar for it, and having an accountability partner. Whether
Oh,
that's
yeah.
just, again, an AI thing, maybe sending you a reminder in Slack, or a human just asking you, hey, did you do your 10 minutes a day? That would
Right?
really help.
That is so true. Yeah, it's in scuba diving, you always have a scuba buddy, and it's,
Mm-hmm.
in life, it's nice to have an accountability buddy for whatever projects you're working on, whether it's, I'm going to do 30 days of yoga in a row, or I'm
Yes.
going to write every day for 10 minutes, or whatever it is. It really is nice to have a friend to come alongside you with that. It'd
Mm-hmm.
be nice if the organization buddied up their people maybe to make sure that they're doing the work.
Yeah,
Yeah. I love
absolutely.
that. So you have read The Manager, and I'd love to hear, was there a part that resonated with your personal or professional life?
Here it is.
Yeah.
So first of all, I love that it was such a quick, easy read, and it really made me get to know you better. But what I enjoyed the most is actually the exercises you have there, and it really made me reflect, not just read, but think about my life. And in particular, you have at page 52 this exercise around creating the vision. The reason why this resonated is because I always think about the vision. That's the way I get motivated, think of the long term, think of the big picture. And really, it allows me to step out of the daily routine and say, okay, who am I? Why am I doing this? What's the impact I'm having? And then going back to the day to day. So I really like the first question there that says, if you could do whatever you wanted, what would you do?
Yeah.
Where would you go in the world? What would you build or create? And it made me think how much important it is to put aside time to dream. Because when you say, if you could do whatever, it's like saying, what if you had unlimited budget, right? What
Mhm.
would you buy?
Yeah.
And these questions are very important because they're really a good exercise for creativity. Because all we tend to do, especially as women, we're more prone to negative emotions. And we tend to see the scarcity, and we tend to see all the challenges that are theirs that would not allow us to achieve our goal. So you're just flipping that narrative and saying, hey, let's think of the what if everything goes well? Like, what if you could do it? What is
Yes.
that thing you want to do?
Yeah,
So, yeah,
using
I
our
love that part.
imagination. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
using our imagination in a positive way instead of a negative way, right? I learned that in childbirth. I
Wow.
did a course that was hypnosis for childbirth, and we would practice using our imagination to visualize the birth going perfectly well. And we would take time every day to do a meditation where we would see the birth going perfectly well. Because when your brain believes, imagining is just as powerful as experiencing to the mind. The mind actually doesn't know the difference.
Right, right. And it's visualization that also
Mhm.
athletes and founders even uses across different
Yeah.
things. And I've tried that too, and I tend to do it whenever I remember. But my point is that we should actually put it in the schedule too, as with the
Yes.
microlearning, like put time for visualization. The
Yes.
neuroscience is there, like the facts are there. You cannot question the impact it can have. So why not
Yes.
benefit from it?
Yeah, absolutely. My life changed in a big way when I started doing this practice on a daily basis. When I really made time for myself to see what I wanted to do next, where I really wanted to go in the long term. Because then when I get stuck in, oh my gosh, there's a mess, there's a pile of laundry, the kids are crying and I'm stressed out. It's like, take a
Yeah.
deep breath, see the future, like where we're headed. It's almost like having a heading on your compass and make sure you have a heading on your compass. Make sure you know where you want to go, because if you're not programming your compass, who is?
Exactly.
You
Nailed it.
know? Don't forget to program your own compass. And then one of the book's themes is systems thinking,
Mm-hmm.
especially the invisible systems women run in a home and at work. How does this show up for you as a founder?
The simple question is, okay, we have a million things, million hats we wear as founders and different departments and all that. But I think the deeper meaning that's connected to being a woman has to do with the amount of feelings we pick up, right? Like everyone's feelings, everyone's worries, everyone's insecurities that we can pick up because we are empathetic, and we know that like we someone has to take care of that because maybe people don't feel comfortable talking about all these, but you can sense it, so you feel like you are responsible for it. Is it silence? And I learned, uh, I would say earlier, but not easily, that it's not my responsibility to worry about everyone's feelings. But it is my responsibility to create a safe space for them to be expressed if they would like to do that. So I make sure, because our team is super diverse, different countries, different languages. Um, it's very, very diverse. So I always want to make sure if someone has something to say, they can say it. And if no one asks them, that I ask them so they feel seen. And that really helps productivity and collaboration a lot. But I think it's also unique to what a female founder CEO can do. I don't really
Yeah.
see that in other spaces because
Yeah.
this is something we can pick up easier than others.
It's one of the things my moms, when I ask about invisible labor, they always talk about the emotional labor, and I actually hadn't considered it. When I first started my podcast, I really didn't. I was thinking, because I'm still very much in the physical labor part of, with small children, it's very physical labor
Yeah.
oriented. And as your children get older, it becomes more emotional labor, where, you're doing, a lot more. You're the guidance counselor.
Uh-huh.
But I had a few friends on. I remember, I think it was one of my very first podcasts, and it was my neighbor actually, who's the marriage and family therapist, and she
Mm.
started talking about emotional labor. So it's the emotional labor that the founder has within the company too, as a female founder. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's not just the team, right? It's also all the
yeah,
external facing roles you have, like when you speak to prospects, to clients, to partners, investors. It really is very taxing at the end of the day if you don't release all that energy, and
hmm,
you take in so much that then impacts how you show up.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
very challenging for sure.
Y Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this question's kind of a follow-up, so let's talk about intuition. Something I write about in The Manager. Has intuition played a role in your leadership or decision making?
Fully.
Right?
Fully and across the board, from product development, like being intuitive on what that experience will look like for the end user. Will they like that change? Is it creating extra work for them? Should we remove this feature? Things like that. To intuition on will this deal happen? Do I have to send an extra message? And is my co-founder motivated? Do I have to challenge an employee more so they feel like they're learning? So much is really based on intuition, and it's unfortunately or fortunately something you have or not, right? Like
Yes.
intuition is hard to develop. It's easier to just improve, because something might have happened and then you stop connecting to it. You can learn to connect it more, but I think for the most part you just have it from when you're born too. So yeah, absolutely. And intuition on who I want to hire, who I want to work with. Do I think that in
Yes.
the long term they will be a good fit? Because everything starts well, right? The red flags end up showing up later. So the more
Yeah,
intuitive you are,
usually.
the better the decisions you make.
It usually takes a couple of months of having someone as employer. I go, "Oh, no, what did I do?"
Yeah. Oops.
It can fool you for, like, about a month or so, and then you're like, "Oh,
Hmm.
no, I made a mistake." So what's one micro-learning principle women can use today to become more confident in the workplace?
I think it's choosing the first step. So let's say the goal is I want to speak to boardrooms more. When you're in the boardroom, the first task is not to start and give a speech, just to ask a question, just to say one phrase, right? Like break down that goal and try to go after it step by step. So like that's the micro learning principle when you learn. So it's the same thing when you act, when you want to, let's say, be confident to show up and speak to a stranger in a networking event. Don't go towards the one that looks like they don't want to be talked to, right? Go to someone who's already close enough and is talkative and friendly and smiley. So make it easier for yourself to step out of your comfort zone by being aware of, I think, your surroundings and what is the low-hanging fruit you can do.
Yeah, and you're right, ask a question because people, like even when they go into a boardroom with a large corporation, oftentimes my first question is, "What are your pain points?
Yeah,
You tell me what you need,
exactly.
because I don't wanna give you the big 20-minute spiel where you guys are all zoning out and waiting for me to be quiet."
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
then
how
they
can I
want
help? Open
Yeah.
the question and let them talk.
Mhm. Exactly, I think that that's a really good one, and I think women are really good listeners and good problem solvers. So it's we have to lean on those strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
yeah,
so true. Yeah, being aware again of your strengths, and maybe let's say if you have five goals, choose the one that's easier. Like there is ways to make it easier for ourselves, but sometimes it's a masochistic trait. We like to do it worse to ourselves because we feel subconsciously we're not worth the improvement. We are not worth the reward. But it's all a mindset.
it really is. Yeah, it's having that shift in your mindset of saying, I love myself, and I deserve a win. So I'm going to go for the easy win. I do that often in life because I'd rather have an easy win than a hard win.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather work my way towards the hard win. And I'm okay with that. Like I don't I don't have any qualms about that at all. I think that a win is a win. I think I learned that from
Yes.
my mom.
Yeah, and it sounds like your mom has been a big inspiration for you.
She's been a huge inspiration for me. I mean, if anybody who reads my book, my mother-in-law just finished my book and she goes, "Man, your mom was really a big inspiration in your life." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Mm.
I don't think people really realize it because I don't talk about her as often in real life,
Yes.
Maybe I do, but I think when you read my book, you really realize the impact that she had on my life. But I think all of our parents have an impact on us.
Interesting.
But I was specifically feel like God gave me the parents that I was given, so that I could grow up to have this impact in life. I don't think I could have had I not had this specific story. I don't think I would be able to write the kind of books that I will be writing, like The Manager and the books that I'm working on now. I think that there's a cumulative effect of the story that every individual experiences, and it's all about embracing those experiences, whether they're positive or negative, and owning those experiences and trying to figure out what the universe was trying to teach you through those experiences.
That's so beautiful. And there is, of course, not even just your direct family, your ancestors. There's so much, yeah, cumulative energy in the world. But you also have to be open to accept it. And I think you are. That's why you have been able to flourish to the woman you're today.
Yeah, you really do. You gotta own it and, like, own all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, like, all of it. Own your whole story, because the lemons make lemonade in your life, and it's like, I feel like I've always learned more from the hard times than I had from the good ones,
Of
and,
course.
you gotta embrace that, the learning, and the growing of your fully human experience on Earth, and I think that that's for me, that's been the big one, but if you could go back and give your younger self one soft skill superpower earlier, what would it be?
That's a very good one. And I think it is closing skills, right? Like it's connected to sales, but it's also other things. Like I believe I was always a very good networker and easy to start conversations with, but I didn't always have that close till
Yeah.
more recent years when I understood that it's not an uncomfortable thing. It's not like an awkward thing to make the ask. It's the only way to progress whatever you're trying to achieve, whether it's getting the yes or the no, or and maybe you have to ask because otherwise the answer will always be no.
Yes, and I think this is a big one for women to learn. I think this is one of the biggest thing that women are learning right now is that I think men have always been better at the ask. And I think that we just now are embracing our own unique and authentic way to ask for what we need, and to get to the close.
But it's
And I
connected to
think,
what you said earlier, is
yeah,
because we weren't told, hey, it's okay to feel like you deserve it.
yes, you do.
It's a
You do
guilt
deserve it.
thing we were
Yes.
carrying.
Yes, yeah, there's a lot of toxic generational stuff that we as women are still carrying, and I think it's coming to terms. My book was like, can we come to terms with the fact that we're still carrying, like, really toxic stuff from
We
our
were
mothers, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers? They came from a different time. We're not living in that time anymore, is the way that we can, like, name those wounds and just let them go so that we can move so that we can be in full ownership of our lives and ourselves and our worth and move forward in the world so that we can rise to our full potential
That's
without
it.
feeling.
And now it's your time to shine. Meh. Yes. It's definitely in terms of the personalization of coaching and learning at scale. Like everyone, no matter their background and their financial status, all of that will have access to very tailored training that they deserve. And on the go, right? Like as we said, on the phone, on your watch, on the robot you'll have at home. That is really amazing because it really pushes our limits as a society to know that education and personal coaching will not be a benefit for only a few. It will be something everyone will have access to. So collectively, our intelligence, both EQ and IQ, will be so high that I truly think we can make amazing things and save the world from a lot of the negative situations we are currently in, including climate change and others. But on my more personal interest with the soft skill side, I just believe it will make society more kind, more collaborative, and hopefully more spiritual so we can truly be happy. I think the world we've been living in is not sustainable, both on the work side, but also on the just quality of life that the average person has. We're not
Yes.
meant to carry, so much in terms of just challenges and competition and, all this fear people have now with AI and all that. I think they should go towards the other side and we should just embrace the positive impact it can have on us being truly good people, helping each other, and collectively living the life we were meant to live as humans on Earth.
Yeah. That's like my big talk is I hope that women come into the AI field and use AI for the good of humanity, because I know when women get involved with things, we are always working towards the good of humanity with things. And I think that is my real call to action with the manager is let's get together with ladies and let's get into technology and let's be involved. I'd love to see, 50% of all of the tech companies in the future owned and run by women. I think that's how we really affect change. That's how we save our planet and our people, and help humanity grow to its full potential, which is what
That
we all really
that's
want to see.
You're speaking to my heart now. I was in a dinner the other day with a bunch of women, and we were reading some stats that most of the use of OpenAI right now is from men. And
Mhm.
one woman said, "Yeah, of course, I don't have time to use ChatGPT when I'm cleaning and I'm doing this and I'm doing that." And it's a chicken and egg thing, right? Because unless
Mhm.
women do develop products that help women save time at home and can make their life easier,
Yes.
we will not get that. But it starts even younger. Like I think now with Gen Alpha and more women at school being involved in AI, and as AI becomes core curriculum, this will
Yes.
change. So it might take a little time, but I'm positive we can get there.
And I think you were right. When I was first writing The Manager, I was sitting down talking to you, and, we were talking about the invisible labor in the house and how that's leadership. And
Yep.
then you said, well, by 2030, you'll have a robot to help you do all those things in your house. And I went, and then what are women going to do?
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to harness our full potential when we don't have the excuse of laundry and dishes?
Yeah.
How are we, what's next for,
Well,
for us as women?
I think that the big also question mark there is how will society be if it will evolve like in general to create a safe space for people to pause and reflect on that question, because for you to
Yes.
take the time means that you're safe, like you're not afraid AI will take your job, you're gonna get your basic income covered, things like that. So yeah, it's a much bigger question, and it's a global question, right? Like how can the world and countries and governments allow women to change their role forever, and truly like future generations which are coming now and will be less smart than robots and AI in general.
Yes.
What is that type of person's role in society
Mhm.
when you're not creating or developing maybe tools and services and platforms? You are being served by the bots and what others created before you. What is your role, whether it's a
Yes.
woman or a man? Like it's changing fully, I think, what society will look like.
Yes. I think as futurists, it's like important for us to have those conversations and to push humanity's mind. Because you know me, I'm always like, what compass are we setting? Where's our heading? And it's like, where is our heading as women, as humanity? Now that we have this technology, we understand what this technology is capable of somewhat. I feel like it's just the tip of the iceberg right now,
Yeah.
but we can see the direction that we're moving in, and it's like, how do we, as the people of right now, how do we prepare the people of tomorrow as we move towards this new future, this technological future, where, there may be serious shifts in the roles of gender, within our households and within our workplaces. Yeah, as women are freed up by technology, what does that even look like for society?
And that we will live longer.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
fascinating. I mean, it's amazing topics to discuss. By the way, because we had that discussion in the past too, I just had a call with a founder who developed a co-founder AI that acts like a COO, like ensuring that
Wow.
people follow SOPs,
Whoa,
and
cool.
basically, yeah, saves you time by managing all your employees. And now every department will start to have few employees, few agents, then less employees, more agents.
Mhm.
And it's also changing every job title. So it only makes sense that we question also the role outside work at this time. And I think it's a very important, actually, call to action to have all CEOs and C-suite rethink how they will as a person be impacted outside of work now that their work is evolving, now that they will have
Yes.
more time. Where do they want to put that energy on? And for the love of God, not put it on other automations, but on things that does actually change the way we live and has a positive impact.
Absolutely. I think this is a time for humanity to reflect on our purpose, like each individual's purpose. Like, what's your passion? What's your purpose? What's the one thing that really motivates you? Is there some problem that you see on earth that you
Uh-huh.
wish you could fix? I feel like everyone's very called to different things, whether it's dog rescue or feeding the hungry or sheltering the homeless or cleaning the beaches. There's so many things that you could do that, I've actually had a few podcasts now that have been more focused on purpose, more focused on philanthropy, because I feel like, as we're called into purpose and success and potential, it doesn't always mean being a CEO. Sometimes it means being on the board of a fabulous nonprofit that's doing good work, and changing the needle for children that are being sex trafficked, or children who are having their organs harvested while they walk to school. Unfortunately, I had a guest who was doing that work in Africa.
Wow.
Um, but, there's so much work to do. So you just have to pick one little
Endless.
thing. One little thing. One little if everyone could just pick one little thing that they found purpose in, some little service to humanity, even I feel like it's like microlearning, honestly. It's like one of those things that if we just
Yeah.
did 5 minutes a day towards making the world a little bit of a better place, and as we find more time, as technology allows us to automate more of our tasks, we as humanity will find more time. And my call to humanity is, can we please not spend our time scrolling on social media and being consumers and being lost in the system? Can we contribute to something better and more beautiful and build something that's really important for the future and happiness of our people on the planet as a whole? Yeah.
And happiness comes from society too. Like, we need to stop alienating ourselves, and social media does that all the time, right? We need to feel
Yes.
connected, and a purpose is able to do exactly that, connect people who are very different from each
Hmm.
other for a common cause. So I think it's a win-win. When you find your purpose, you find your people, and that by default makes you happier, and then that works as a domino effect. So yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's so true. You do find your tribe. Once you find your purpose, you will find your tribe. And when you find your tribe, it's nice to belong to a group of people
Yes.
that are like-minded, and happiness, I think, is something that we could be focusing a lot more on rather
Um,
than the pursuit of money, because money will not make you happy. You got to bring happy with you.
yeah.
No matter where you're going, you bring it with you.
So
Yeah.
true. Again, it's what as a society we believe is important, how we create those structures for people to be able to redefine happiness. Because whatever we sit here and say, like when there is someone that's hungry and they are not able to survive, like they will not be able to reach that high vibration. We know that. So
Mhm.
we need to uplift these people so that we're kind of at the same wavelength so that we can all experience these next steps.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been having this conversation over here in Hawaii a lot. There's a Sanskrit saying that's "Loka samaste sukhino bhavantu," and generally translates as "May all the beings in all the world be happy." And it's like, how do we get to a place where everyone can be happy? What does that look like for humanity? And that's something I like to think about a lot you know, I know that there's a way. There has to be. 'Cause I
Mm,
I do think that, like, love is the highest frequency, and I do think that, like, love is the frequency of the universe as a whole, and as we, evolve on this planet as a species, I think we're evolving towards that vibration, not away from it.
so what would you say, like how can someone though experience love unless they've also experienced the opposite? So how do we
Mm.
live in a world that we can safely feel the negative emotions and know that we can reach the positive ones. Because I think that's where the risk is. It's not that we as humans are not capable of love, it's that sometimes due to lack of courage or lack of, again, safe space around you, you decide to go towards the negative emotion. That is the comfort
True.
zone, right? So how do we help people navigate their emotions, right? It goes back to
Yes.
soft skills, self-awareness, and I think it's just education globally has to evolve to
It
truly
does.
speak to the areas that we need to develop within us to reach that high frequency.
Absolutely. And so much of that work is done within, the work of finding enough love for ourselves and self-worth and self-confidence. That is internal work.
Mm.
You can be given tools, but then that work has to be done internally. I think that micro learning could be used to teach people how to be happier. I think we
Right.
could teach them how to be happier one day at a time,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
it is little things. It's a mindset. It's not what's happening around you either. I've met people living on dirt floors in shacks with no running water that are happier than my neighbors growing up in Monarch Bay who lived in behind a guard gate and then had another gate and had millions and millions of dollars and were not happy. So happy isn't
It's a
defined by
state
your
of mind.
circumstances. Yes, it
Yes.
is. It's a mindset. It really is. And a lot of times it's a lot more about cultivating the relationships with people around us. It's a lot of times it's more about community. We're such social animals. And we're allowing ourselves to fall into the trap of feeling connected online versus finding real community in real life. And I think that that's going to be the big one for us as we move forward into the future with technology.
Yeah.
Say, how do we
I mean,
stay connected?
I couldn't agree more. I always say that my happiest ever point in life was when I first came to New York. I had literally $5 in my account, and I couldn't care less. Like, I didn't feel the work as the enthusiasm of exploring a new place was so much higher than that worry. I was so full of excitement to meet people, to see places, and I could have just focused on, oh, I got no money, but that doesn't matter when you it's the opportunity cost. Like, it's what again you value. Like, if you value the fact that, hey, this is an opportunity, this is a new place, this is an adventure more than security, then you have a growth mindset, then you're ready to live your life. But if you always worry and then you don't take risks and you don't open the door that comes along your way, then you'll just stay where you are and you'll never grow. So I think what we need to teach is also that without the risk, the reward will never come.
Yes. Yes. And that failure is okay. There's no such thing. Like if the only thing that failure means is that you're actually trying. Because honestly, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. That's the only way we learn. I feel like my mom was such the good teacher when it came to that. And in fact, I was having a conversation with my friend Blair, who we had the whole conversation in my book about failure and how my mother had raised me to fail. And she was telling me a further story that Sarah Blakely, the CEO of Spanx, her dad was a fraternity brother with Blair's dad in
Mm.
school. And every night he would put her to bed and he would say, "What was your biggest failure today? And what did you learn from it?"
Wow,
And I was like,
powerful.
whoa. I was like, no wonder she grew up to be so resilient, that she could grow up to grow a $1 billion company at a time when that really wasn't being done. I feel like she was really one of the first females to grow a $1 billion company with Spanx. And it's, so impressive that another thing, resilience can be taught. And resilience is part of happiness. It's part of that growth mindset. It's
And
part of
back
the
to the
equation.
question on confidence, I think at the end of the day, that's how you develop confidence, by having
Yeah.
a track record of failing and standing up, of failing and standing up, and telling yourself, okay, I did that already like 20 times, I might as well do it one more, and not
Yes.
getting into a victim mentality of, why is this happening to me? No, it's happening because it's the only way to grow, as you said.
Yeah, like Thomas Edison said, he didn't learn. he didn't find out 99 ways not to do it. He found out one way to make the electricity, and there are 99 ways not to do it. But you have that's the only way you can learn sometimes. The only way you get to success is you got to try and try and try and try and try. It's like baking, girls, like your first cake doesn't turn out perfect. But the more you make that pesto, the more you make the whatever sauce or you're working on, it's like you keep it's not that big of a deal if it's not perfect the first time. Like, just keep trying. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. Like, my pesto is on point now, but I've made it for the last 20 years. So of course it is.
Right?
Right? You
Give
just keep
yourself
getting better and
time.
better.
Yeah, that's very
Yes.
important.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and your brilliance and your heart with us today, Ioanna. The way you blend AI with emotional intelligence is reshaping how we teach and how we connect and how we lead. To learn more about Ioanna's work, visit dextego.com or follow Ioanna on LinkedIn. And if you haven't already, pick up a copy of The Manager. Ioanna did, and we've had some of our best conversations because of it.
Thank you so
Signing
much.
off. Thank
Thank you.
you. You're the best. I always enjoy our conversations, and I
Me
look forward
too.
to talking to you again soon, Ioanna. Have a great day.
You too, Amy.
Okay. Bye.